I think the best thing that I did for my dating life was to cut out all that mindless texting. All that good morning, what are you doing today? Nothing much, what about you? Oh, I'm going to go to the gym. I don't have to have another conversation even resembling that one ever again. I've had enough. I've had enough to last a lifetime. I don't need any more. That's a really good way to get like emotionally connected to a man who has actually done nothing to like earn that. So now I just let him know off rip, like I'm not a big texter, which is true for me because I really don't even text my friends that much. I don't like texting, but I'm not a big texter. If you want to get in contact with me, you can schedule a phone call, no surprise calls. We can set aside some time during the week to sit down and have a phone call and get to know each other, or you can schedule a date. It's up to you, but you're not, I do repeat, you are not going to blow up my phone with text messages. I'm not the one. So not only does it like weed out the ones who really are not about it for real, because they're going to be like, oh, I don't have time to do phone calls throughout the week, or I don't have time for a date. Then you don't have time for me. So it weeds out them, but it also is like, can he stick to a scheduled day? Can he keep his word? Can he call when he says he's going to call? When we're on the phone, what is he choosing to talk about? Like, what is he using this time for? Is he actually getting to know me, or are you just sitting on the phone to sit on the phone? So yeah, skip the texting, baby. Take me straight to the good stuff.
When I was in the dating world, I absolutely hated texting. But I did it anyway because that's what people were doing. Until I realized that the men that were texting, that were in the dating world also, and on all of these dating apps, they were mindlessly texting because it's an easy way to talk and communicate with multiple women at one time. Once I realized this, I cut out all the texting, and I basically required that if you wanted to get to know me, that you had to call me every day, and there were certain windows in which I allowed you to call me. That in itself weeded out all of the ones that weren't any good, and I met my husband.
I had a huge reality check when it came to dating recently. End of last year, I was talking to this guy who was a great guy, like all around, hands down, gentleman, never tried me, perfect guy. Perfect catch, really. Caveat is that he never texted me. Personally, I'm used to a lot of guys like just texting me consistently on a regular basis, and he just wasn't doing that, but he would call and actually make plans with me. And I was thinking, damn, I really want someone who's gonna be more consistent with me and sure about me. So I asked, and the universe delivered. A love bomber. Someone who was super consistent with me every single day, had texted me good morning, checked in on me, like it was a constant text stream 24/7. Problem is, he was also love bombing me. I really had to take a deep look inside and figure out what it is that I'm looking for. And I came to the realization that if I'm just meeting someone, why would I think that it would be okay to have access to them 24/7? You don't know me. And what is it triggering inside of me that I feel like I need that person's attention at all times? A lot of you are going to come for me on this, but hear me out. A high quality man is probably going to be pretty busy working on the things that are important to him. What inside of you thinks that you should have access to him 24/7 in the very beginning? Maybe when the relationship progresses, yes. And I know a lot of you are saying, well, we always have our phone in our hand. It takes 2 seconds. I get it. But hear me out. That same person that's texting you on a continuous basis nonstop is looking for this thrill, this chase, and they're probably texting multiple people at once. The thing with this is that that thrill and that chase always burns out. A man who actually has a purpose in life doesn't have that much time to be giving out in the very beginning. Short story long, go for the slow burn, not the guy that is going to be obsessed with you in the very beginning, because I promise you he is probably love bombing you. And if you want more dating content, hit the follow.
Please stop texting people, hey, sup, how's your day? What's going on? 400 times a fucking day. I get it. To a lot of people, they think texting is how you connect with somebody, and the only way to keep somebody's interest is to text them a bunch of times so that they're not going to forget about you. But part of dating with intention is also texting with intention. And having something interesting to fucking say. You can check in here, there, and everywhere. You can make a phone call. You can ask how somebody's day is. But if every text is, hey, sup, not much, you, same, working, LMAO, then don't fucking text. There is no weight or depth to that conversation. Honestly, it just annoys me because then it's like, okay, cool. Why do we have to text and why do we have to bother our time? It's boring as fuck, honestly. There was nothing that annoyed me more than somebody that would text just for the sake of text. So be thoughtful. Instead of giving lukewarm bullshit responses or just saying hey 1,000 times every single day, have a conversation with somebody. Offer some kind of depth, offer a reason for texting, or I don't know, pick up the phone and have a conversation, make a plan and go hang out with them in person. If you choose not to, then don't be surprised if people just stop answering you when they start to realize these conversations are going nowhere.
Ever again. I've had enough. I've had enough to...
Especially for all the black girls out there. Stop being a texter. If dating seriously in 2024 is one of your goals, you need to be doing this. Not only does it create a false sense of intimacy, it wastes your literal time. We'll be so excited for a good night, good morning, all that crap. If it doesn't end in you getting a date or hangout or something practical, you're just a texting buddy. 9 out of 10 times, you're the only one that's responding back. Quickly, too. People, men and women, they can be easy to read. But this is something kind of important in order for you to kind of level up into getting into more successful relationships. And I'm speaking to myself on that. Although I don't really care to get in a relationship anymore now these days, this is probably one of the biggest things I've learned being on my no man binge. You're literally a free therapist. Stop.
I think the best thing that I did for my dating life was to cut out all that mindless texting.
Go back and watch her video. But what she's talking about is something I've been telling my friends about for years. Stop allowing these men to hit you up and say nothing. I don't do it. Assertive and direct communication is the first sign to know that we align. I don't engage in how'd you sleep, how was your day, what you doing, none of those things. All that is, get that out of here. What you need to be, what's going to create a connection, a genuine connection for me, is stating exactly why you're here. So even if it's the very first time you're contacting me, keep it real. Hey, I found you attractive. I came in here to see if maybe I could get to know you, or we can establish a connection, or I could take you out. Boom. If you're not somebody who likes to just immediately go from get your number to plan a date, you like a little vetting period, I understand. But let's actually get on the phone, or actually just get into what we're talking about. When you call your best friend, when I call my best friend, I don't be like, hey girl, how you doing? No, I just get right to the T. That's how I want to be addressed. That's how I want my conversations to go. When I talk to my friends or even somebody I like, I don't ask a bunch of questions, because to me it seems like you're trying to force a conversation. I just talk. And then that's just going to create a conversation in itself. It's going to evolve it organically. So engaging in how do you sleep, it doesn't matter how I slept. Engaging in how was your day. When you become the person who's created the space and the connection that I need, I will tell you about my day without you asking. Or maybe when we're in person and I actually feel like I want to share, we'll get to it. But just hit me up with what you doing, how you doing, how's life, da-da-da-da-da. I don't want to hear none of that. I want you to get to the point when you're talking to me. And I just want to add, that goes for when you do get to the point where you want to plan a date. I'm not the girl who's like, you can't take me to Cheesecake Factory, you can't take me here, or whatever the case may be. But I am the person you need to plan. You need to have a time. You need to tell me exactly what's going on, what's the dress code, whatever the case may be. So, for example, even if it's a coffee date, I would like you to be thoughtful about it. I want to see if we can meet at this time on this day at this place. Send if you really him for real, you'll see the link so I can look for myself and really get a gauge of what I'm doing. These people who are like, so they're just laissez-faire with their planning. I can't do that. My time, it just feels like you don't give a fuck about my time and how valuable it is, and you really don't know what you're going to do with me, and therefore I don't know what I'm going to do with you, so I'm not going to do nothing. So I don't know, watch her video, and I encourage people to just be more assertive with their planning and with their conversation and who they're connecting themselves to, and allowing access to them, because all that small talk, mindless conversation, mindless texting, you're just allowing access to somebody who really doesn't have any intentions for you.
One of the biggest lessons I've learned in dating, and I will die on this hill now, is to not constantly text somebody in the early stages. This was so fucking hard for me too, because I love to text, especially if I really like you. And I always used to think, like, if they're not responding fast, if they're not texting me morning, noon, and night, they don't like me, but that's honestly just not true. Texting so much at the beginning creates such a false sense of intimacy. And I feel like that's why so many of us get so hooked on a guy so fast, because we're constantly texting them all day, every day, and we feel like we're creating a connection and we're getting to know them. And what's really happening is we're getting attached to the idea and the fantasy of the person versus the actual person. All the good mornings, good nights, how's your day, what are you doing, all day, every day should be when you're in a relationship. Anybody can portray any persona over text, and most of the time manipulators, love bombers, men who just like are playing games will be the most amazing texters but not put in any effort anywhere else, and then we start catching feelings, we start falling in love with the idea of them versus who they really are. At the beginning, checking in a few times a day, making plans, talking on the phone, that's perfect. And then as things progress, you can start texting more and more. You do not want a fucking pen pal.
It is time for an unpopular dating opinion. I think you should talk as little as possible between dates early on in dating. Here's what I mean by that. A lot of us, myself included in the past, have a tendency to get really invested in someone early and then want to text and text and text and text between dates. Not just to set up the dates, but to ask them how their week is going, to hear what's going on in their life, to flirt back and forth. And I understand the appeal. It feels nice to get attention. Everyone likes a little bit of attention for the most part. And it's nice to feel validated over text by the person that you're dating. That being said, in the past couple months, I have taken the approach of trying to communicate as little as possible between dates. And I pretty much only text or send voice memos with the intent of setting up another date. And I have gotten so much benefit out of this, I can't even begin to explain. Because I'm not wasting time and energy trying to draft a text that I think will be interesting, going back and forth about our weeks and talking about these mundane things that don't really matter, just for the sake of feeling validated. And then I think the concern is, well, will the person that you're dating think that you're not interested if they're not hearing from you every day early on? But I established pretty early in dating, hey, I'm not necessarily like the biggest texter, but feel free to call me if you want to talk. And a phone call is not going to last 4 hours. Most likely it's going to be a quick, maybe 20-minute check-in at the end of the day. You're actually going to get to hear their voice. You're going to feel more connected. Going back and forth over a text, I think, just doesn't have the same effect. And I say all this because I think if you can prioritize in-person, real dates, and then FaceTimes or phone calls in between, you will find that not only do you get to know the person better, but you don't establish this false relationship based on back and forth texting in your head. Let me know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments.
I feel like a lot of people don't put too much mind into mindless texting. A lot of people think it's not a big deal at all. Texting multiple people at a time just to have funsies, just to have attention, lingering around, to have your options open. But in the long run, what we don't notice is that day by day, when we get accustomed to the mindless texting multiple people at a time, we are literally training ourselves to be emotionally detached from the start. Because now you're just not wondering what that person is really about, what their morals are, what are their values, what they stand up for, what they don't, what they disagree on, what they agree on. All these statuses, all these questions that we should put to question is out the window. Now it's just based on how much this person gives me attention. We are becoming a generation that is becoming very emotionally detached. And this is why we have a lot of dysfunctional relationships. This is why a lot of relationships don't work out. Because we are customizing our thoughts, our internal self to these mindless texting, to these mindless things that don't have any importance in the long run. And we're just basing it off of how much attention this person gives me. This is why hookup culture is such a big thing now in our generation. This is why hookup culture is so glamorized. This is why situationships are so in trend right now, in a speak. Because all we do is mindless texting. We text multiple people at a time because what? We're bored? And I get it. I've been on that train. I get it, girl. A little bit of attention, you know? But also in the long run, it does nothing good to us. It lowers our self-esteem. We forget where our value comes from. We start adapting to this hookup culture. We start adapting our life to temporal things, temporal people, and it's truly so scary.
I think the best thing that I did for my dating life was to cut out all that mindless texting.
So I agree with this, and I actually want to take this a step further in saying that I think regardless of the method of communication, whether it's through text, whether it's through phone or FaceTime, it's important to be intentional with why you're communicating with someone. And I think especially for guys, I would just take myself, for example. I'm only communicating with women that I'm romantically interested in to set up a potential date. And the only way that I do this is by having one phone conversation and one phone conversation only. And during that conversation, what I'm doing is I'm analyzing for certain details that either confirm my attraction or make me decide that she's not someone that I would want to take out on a first date. But let's just say all things go well at the end of the conversation. I would say something like, hey, I thought that this was a really great conversation. I would love to continue this over drinks or oysters. Or if there was something that she mentioned in that conversation, I would recall that and try to set up a date around that. And granted that she agrees to it, I'll plan the date. And what I'll do is I will send those details to her via text. So I'll send her the Google Maps of the location, and I'll send her the time and date. So I'll say, hey, once again, really great getting to know you. Looking forward to seeing you at XYZ Oyster Bar at 7 p.m. next Thursday, December 15th. Have a good evening, have a good day, whatever it is. And from there, she's not going to hear from me at all. And a lot of people may think that's a ballsy approach, which I guess it could be. But my take on it is that attraction's already sky high. I already know that she's interested in me because she agreed to go out on a date with me. So what else is there for me to do? I actually think that over communicating past this point has a greater chance of ruining the attraction, because attraction is built on mystique. That's the reason why people agree to date, so that they can get to know you a little bit more. But if they know everything about you, then there's no reason for them to go on that date. And ultimately, you want to see if there's a potential for the relationship to progress to the next level, which is that physical chemistry. But if you don't ever set up a date, you're never going to get there. And most likely what's going to happen is the conversation is going to fizzle out over time. And, there may be some people out there who will say, oh, well, there's this girl I'm talking to and she prefers to keep things via text. She just, doesn't like to talk on the phone. Well, I would just give you a hard dose of reality and say she more than likely does. It's just not with you. She's more than likely doing that with someone else. And, I think in that case, you just got to cut your losses and move on, because I think as a man, it's important for you to continue to focus on your mission and your vision in life, which should be building the type of lifestyle for yourself, right? And anything that you're doing outside of that, where you are over contributing resources towards, it's taking away from your ability to continue to focus on your life's mission. So yeah, fellas, I would say let's just make sure that we are being more intentional about our communication and what we're looking to get out of situations. I think ultimately, for the better and for worse, it saves a lot of time on both sides.